Hi, this is Paul F. Olson, and I've been asked to talk a little bit about my new short story collection called Whispered Echoes, which is now available in paperback and ebook from Crystal Lake Publishing. The book contains 11 of my earliest stories, and for me, talking about an earliest story, that means stories that date back to the early 1980s in some cases, up through approximately the early 1990s. These are stories that were originally published in little magazines and in some cases anthologies of that era. Also included in the book is something brand new, a 36,000 word novella called Bloody Bones, which wraps up the collection. The book was originally published in a signed and numbered limited edition, an absolutely beautiful book that was put out by Cemetery Dance Publications, and now it has been published in ebook and paperback formats by Crystal Lake. And I'm exceptionally pleased to bring these stories, which go back so far in my career, to a brand new and a much wider audience. I've also been asked to read a little something from the book to give you a sample of what you might find in its pages. And I picked a story called Through the Storm. And this is a story that it comes sort of in the midpoint of those early years. Was originally published in 1988, I believe. It appeared in a wonderful magazine of that time called 2AM, which was edited by Greta Anderson. And it's always been kind of a favorite story of mine, and as it turns out, a favorite of a lot of my readers, too. Even to this day, people will mention this story to me. I'm going to read just a little bit of it, perhaps a page or two, to give you just a flavor of the story, and which will in turn, I hope, give you a flavor of Whispered Echoes, the collection as a whole. So this is the beginning of Through the Storm. Andy Frost sat on the back porch of his great-aunt's summer house, staring at the lake, absently pushing checkers around the board in front of him. Several of the black checkers had been lost years before and had been replaced by large buttons from someone's sewing kit. It didn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered if they'd never been replaced at all. There was nobody to play with anyway. In the past hour, the afternoon sky had begun to darken, and a breeze hurried across the lake, riffling his hair. There was that potent, unmistakable smell. A thunderstorm was coming. A big one. "Andy," his great aunt called from the house, "I want you inside now. Radio says it's going to rain." Andy glanced toward the screen door momentarily, then returned to pushing the checkers around the board. Gonna rain, he thought. You needed the radio to tell you that? What kind of witch are you, anyhow? "Andy?" He began to hum softly to himself. Across the lake, the first great streaks of moisture appeared in the air. It was probably already pouring in town. That meant he had another 5 or 10 minutes. Behind him, the screen door banged open. He caught a brief whiff of lilac bath powder before the breeze snatched it away. "Andy, did you hear me, boy? I said I want you inside right now. There's going to be a storm." "I'll be in soon, Dell. Hang tight." He could feel her staring at him, those roomy but devil-sharp eyes trying to penetrate the back of his skull. He longed to remain still, but squirmed a bit, helplessly. "I will not hang tight, Andrew Joseph. I will not hang tight at all. I told you to come inside. Now gather up your things and get in here." "Witch," he muttered under his breath, and thought, "Oh, you're Mr. Cool, all right. A regular Iceman. But if you were looking right at her, you wouldn't be so cool, would you? You'd be dyeing your jockey shorts brown." "What did you say?" "Nothing, Dell. I'll be right in." He could still feel the eyes. They were like blazing drill bits applied to the back of his neck. Then at last they left him. The screen door banged again, and she was gone. Andy looked up from the checkerboard, trying to gauge the storm's progress. The streaks of moisture were a little darker, a little closer. The wind had picked up, too. For the first time in practically 2 weeks, there were whitecaps on the water. He heard the mutter of distant thunder, although he'd seen no lightning yet. It was going to be a bad one, maybe the worst yet. Might be hail. Might lose a couple of trees. So what are you sitting here for? Why don't you motivate your buns and get inside where it's safe? That brought a small bubble of laughter to his lips. He picked up a red checker and moved it 2 squares to the left. The first trace of moisture touched his cheeks. Not rain yet exactly, but closer. The wind was now a constant, driving force. The screen door opened again, not with a bang this time, but with an almost imperceptible whisper of wood. The sound made him shiver. And I think that's where we'll leave that story for now. That was the beginning of Through the Storm from my collection Whispered Echoes. Again, the book available from Crystal Lake Publishing in paperback formats and ebook. And I hope you will pick up a copy, and I hope you enjoy reading these stories as much as I enjoyed writing them.